Hey, and welcome to Black and White Football. This is the World Cup wrap-up show. This is day 6. David isn't with me here today, so you're just going to be stuck with me talking about today's games that we saw today and kind of giving a brief little preview on the upcoming games tomorrow. So we've had all the games in the opening match day, so it's been very good so far. It's been kind of a record number of goals, record number of penalties, record number of goals from set pieces. So it's hasn't disappointed so far. There hasn't been any 0-0 draws, which is the first time ever. I think since 1934 or something like that. So Russia won out today against Egypt 3-1. Looks like they're booking their passage through to the knockout stages. Looks like Mo Salah and Egypt are going home. It was good to see Mo Salah play some game time today. He played from the start and finish and scored a penalty, but I think a lot of people were hoping for the best for him. I'm not a Liverpool fan, but I was still hoping to see if he could perform on the world stage, and apparently he was getting one of the physios to help him put on his jersey, that his shoulder still wasn't right, that it was still kind of tweaking, so I think that definitely didn't help, but it was great to see some of the greatest players in the world playing on the world's biggest stage, so at least we got to see him, and hopefully he'll be fit enough to play again in their last game, even though it looks like their chances of qualifying now are slim and none, but be interested to see how they continue. So there's another couple of other games that were on today. Guess we'll start from the start and start off with Colombia versus Japan. So in a previous kind of live broadcast, myself and David kind of discussed who our dark horses were for the tournament. I said Colombia, so it didn't really go well for them today. Started off pretty poorly. It was long ball over the top. Davinson Sanchez, who I highly rate at Tottenham this year as a young centre defender, kind of got muscle off the ball and allowed the Japanese striker to have a shot. It was saved by Ospina in goal, but the rebound fell to Kagawa. He tried to put it in, and another Carlos Sanchez, kind of put it out his arm, prevented the goal, gave away a penalty and got a red card. So it was only 3 minutes into the game. I think I was watching some of the BBC coverage for this, and Cesc Fabregas didn't understand why he did it. He could understand why he would do it if it was in the last minute or if it was in a knockout game. Kind of similar to how Suarez did it in 2010 to save on the line against Ghana in the knockout stages. Asamoah Gyan had that penalty, he missed it, and ultimately Uruguay got to the next stage, so it was seen as win at all costs, whereas there wasn't that stakes today in the game. 3 minutes into the opening game, there was so much time left to kind of come back, and the way Colombia played with 10 men in that first half, they absolutely dominated Japan. Very difficult to break down, but they eventually got that goal. It was a nice little cheeky kind of free kick. Went under the wall as they jumped, and it looked like one of the slowest free kicks ever. The keeper tried to save it, went behind the line, tried to claim it, didn't, but obviously with goal line technology, it's clear and obvious when it does cross the line. So the Japanese kind of came out strongly in the second half. Obviously they had an extra man for pretty much all 90 minutes, didn't really make any didn't get any dividends from it in the first half, but in the second half they did play very well. Kind of looks like Colombia were trying to kind of hang on. Their manager Jose Pekerman did make some very adventurous subs, so James Rodriguez didn't start for Colombia, which was a surprise, but he did come on, and the coach seemed to look to go for the 3 points straight off the bat, so I guess questions will be asked whether he should have done that or whether he should have just kind of put on an extra defensive midfielder after the hour mark and kind of look to hold on for that point and maybe look to push in the last 10 or so minutes. But ultimately Japan scored from a corner. I think there's been a lot of goals from corners. Obviously the 2 goals for England last night were from corners or from set pieces, so another from a corner, ball delivered in off the post and in, and Colombia did try to come back. They brought on Carlos Bacca as well late on, and he didn't really do much to influence the game. My main memory or takeaway from him is in the last kind of couple of minutes in extra time or in injury time, had a ball out wide and tried to cross it in and it just went hopelessly over the bar. So not too much of an impact from the the substitutes from Colombia. So Jose Peckerman's kind of risking in bringing on attacking players when they were down to 10 men for such a long period of time didn't really pay off. So it'll be interesting to see how they come back in the next game, because Poland and Sengal were the other two teams in this group, and they obviously had an interesting game as well, which we'll talk about shortly. So interesting to see what Colombia can do. Obviously they're one of my kind of dark horse picks, one of my outsiders to do well, so kind of hoping that they progress, but credit to Japan. I think it was an average age of 31 that we're starting today for Japan, so experienced team. They don't really seem to have the next generation coming through, which might be difficulty for them moving forward at future tournaments. Obviously it's kind of an underlying kind of problem with the whole Japanese population kind of generally kind of aging as well, so it'll be interesting to see where the next stars are going to come from. So the starting striker wasn't Okazaki, as we kind of speculated. Obviously he's the Leicester City striker that a lot of people will probably be aware of. So it was actually a guy called Osaka, so he ended up scoring that second goal and the winning goal from that corner. And then he had a great block, I think it was from a James Rodriguez shot kind of late on, last kind of ditch tackle, and saved a potential goal. So there were some interesting performers. Quintero for Colombia, he scored the free kick. Cuadrado was removed quite early on as well, which was a surprise for a defensive midfielder, Barrios. So I think he'll be disappointed there, because Cuadrado is one of Colombia's better talents. Obviously he had his time at Chelsea and then kind of moved on to Juventus. So it'll be interesting to see if the Japanese can do well in their two remaining games, and obviously Colombia have two remaining games as well, so it looks like it's going to be an interesting group given the result of the next game that happened in that. So that was Poland versus Sengal. So it was 2-1 win for Sengal, and Africa's first win at this World Cup. So I think, David, in our preview Black and White Football yesterday, he was heavily on a Sengal win. So I was hoping for a lot of goals and excitement in the game, and it definitely kind of delivered on those kind of fronts. The pace from Sengal up front was kind of frightening at times. Was disappointed with how Lewandowski kind of played. I don't think he really kind of showed some of the qualities that we're kind of picking up yesterday. So I think he'll be kind of disappointed. Obviously, it's kind of seen as another golden generation for another team. Poland haven't really been at the races in previous tournaments, so I think this is kind of seen as Poland's best team for a number of years. And then obviously when a player like Lewandowski is absolutely world class, although he didn't show it today, but he is kind of nearing the end of his career, and he might still be around in 4 years' time for the next World Cup, but you'd have to say that he's probably at the peak of his powers now, so it was disappointing to see him not have much of an influence on the game. And then another player that I kind of pointed out yesterday was Zelensky. I thought he had a very good first half, but kind of faded as the game went on, and it looked like Sengal kind of grew in strength in the second half, so kind of got lucky with the first goal. It was kind of a long-range shot. I think it might have taken even a couple of deflections on the way through and left Szczesny, the goalkeeper, completely fat-footed. So Sengal got a good bit of luck there, and then a bit of controversy as well over their second goal. So Niang, who David kind of told us to look out for yesterday, fast, kind of wide attacking forward, and that it's not just Mane who's the wide attacking pacey forward in the Sengal team. So I think he used to play with AC Milan, and now he's at Torino, but he was kind of off injured. Poland were attacking and they were kind of playing the ball backwards. Niang was on the side of the pitch looking to get back on. The ref kind of waves him on into play, and another player that we mentioned yesterday, Kryocek, who was at PSG and loaned to West Brom last year. He kind of played the ball back kind of aimlessly. One of the defenders was kind of looking around, didn't really realise that Niang had re-entered the pitch, so he just kind of ran through, and Szczesny came storming out. He's probably about 35 yards out of his goal by the time Niang actually scored it. So that put them 2-0 up, and then Kryocek scored a header kind of late on, I think the 86th minute, so Poland didn't really have too much time to try and get the equaliser. And I was kind of hoping for it just because I had predicted 2-2 yesterday, so I was hoping for a nice correct score and correct result prediction, but it wasn't to pass, and I'm delighted that Senegal actually won, because you could see, the fanfare from their supporters was great throughout. There was, the 8 or so guys, or 7 guys, with Senegal, each with a letter each, and they were doing kind of coordinated moves, so it was great to see that. And then at the end of the game, the whole pitch were doing a dance, and some had the tops off, and they're all kind of in a coordinated move, so it was cool to see that. And I guess that's kind of part of the magic of the World Cup. Different cultures bringing different styles and attitudes to a game, and they were absolutely delighted. So I think it was great for Senegal, obviously, but it being the first win for an African side as well, I think it's great for African football to have teams winning on the biggest stage against a very decent side in Poland. So I think, Niang got kind of man of the match on a lot of the online kind of press. Krajicek for Poland was good. Obviously, he scored the goal, but I think other than his mistake to kind of laxly kind of put the ball back towards his defender, or I don't know, did he mean it to go all the way back to Szczesny? Not really sure, but other than that mistake, I think he played well in kind of defensive midfield for Poland, with Zelensky kind of next to him, and Zelensky was the one to kind of look to link up play and to make forward kind of movement with the ball. So it'll be interesting to see. Obviously, the other game was the one we talked about previously, with Colombia losing to Japan. So I think it might be a wide open group, because I think everyone else can kind of beat each other from here on out. I think Japan only won today because of their extra man advantage, so it'll be interesting to see how they do, assuming that the other teams don't go down to 10 men as well. So I think that could be a wide open group that will definitely go to match day 3 to see who finally gets out of that group, Group H. And then the evening game, so we're starting match day 2 now. So this was Russia versus Egypt. So it was with self and David kind of saw this as being a kind of a tight kind of matchup. We kind of thought that Russia would play kind of defensively, because I think Russia would have been okay with the draw. So I think for them, we kind of thought that they would play kind of defensive, that they wouldn't be too open at the back, but they definitely outplayed our expectations again. They've won 2 games now in a row. They scored 5 in the first one with a clean sheet, and scored 3 again today against Egypt while conceding a penalty. So I think it's the best start by a host since the very start of the competition. I think it was 1934. So I think Italy were the hosts on that occasion. I think they scored a similar number of goals, but they conceded more. So that was interesting to see Russia do well again. So it all but guarantees them to get to the next round of the World Cup. So I think World Cups are better when the hosts as well. So I think we'll definitely keep attendances up and the atmosphere in the country up as well. So Salah, he played the full 90. I don't think it was his best game by a long shot. Didn't really create too much. Obviously went down for the penalty, won the penalty, even though it had to go to VAR. It's kind of like a pullback on the edge of the box, so we went to VAR to decide whether it was inside the box or outside the box. So kind of started outside the box, and the pullback on Salah kind of continued into the box. So if it doesn't matter if it started outside the box, if it continues in, it's still a penalty. So good to have VAR in that instance, just to kind of clear up any dubious kind of calls, because the referee gave it outside, so he obviously got it wrong. So good to see VAR being effective in that situation. So Cherchov again played fantastic. He scored again. Golovin didn't really have the same kind of impact that he had last time out. And then Zuba, he was the big kind of striker that they brought on last time against Saudi Arabia, and he actually started this time out because I think I was reading some stats that the last 20 goals that Egypt have scored, 14 of them have been from headers. So they definitely look to try and take advantage of a potential weakness there. And Zuba is a big man, so he got his goal. Wasn't a header, it was a lovely little finish. into the bottom right hand corner. So he'll be happy with that, and probably looks like he might start again instead of Smolov up front. So I think we spoke before the actual World Cup, and Russia kind of don't really have an out-and-out striker. I think there's only a couple of players who have scored more than 10 goals, although Cheryshev now has got 3 so far in this tournament. Joins Ronaldo in the top of the Golden Boot stages, so I think that's great for him. And yeah, looks like Egypt are going home, so it's unfortunate for them, but I think they were delighted to get to the World Cup. Obviously, Salah not being fit for the first game hindered them, conceded a late goal, and then even though Salah played today, I think it was clear that he wasn't fully fit. I think I mentioned earlier that he was getting a physio to help him to put on his jersey, so that's never a good sign, because it wasn't a Balotelli moment where he had to get someone to help him put on a bib because he didn't know which was front, which was back, and everything. It was a genuine kind of pain in Salah's shoulder, which is hopefully not going to be detrimental to him long term, because I think he obviously kind of played through the pain barrier, possibly had injections to get him out there today. So hopefully that won't be a problem kind of moving forward. So at the end of the first match day, I think myself and David said that we'd do a kind of wrap up of all the games and stuff, but obviously David isn't here today, so we're just doing myself kind of talking to myself about football. So hopefully you guys are enjoying it regardless. But did kind of come across a cool article just a couple of hours ago posted by The Guardian about the top 10 things we learned. Like a lot of places seem to be putting out list articles, listicles, I think they call them. Rhymes with another word as well, which probably sums up my opinions on them. But since it's the World Cup, it's actually a pretty good one. So the first thing that they learned apparently is that Russia is a good place to host a World Cup, and I think I'd echo those kind of statements. I think a lot of people are kind of worried about hooliganism and potential for some nasty kind of stuff off the pitch, but that hasn't transpired at all. And I was kind of speaking to somebody else, and someone said that since it's happening in Russia, that the Russian government and security forces take a zero tolerance approach, and that people wouldn't be trying to get away with what we saw in France in 2016. So I think that's been great, and it's kind of put people at ease. So I think beer is relatively cheap over there. It's been pretty sunny. I think today was the first day I saw rain during some of the games, and I was in St. Petersburg today for the Russia-Egypt game. So I think everything seems to be going well. I've got a friend who might be joining the show in a future live broadcast, who's actually over there at the moment, and he's been kind of talking about free trains between cities, and that they're not packed like you might expect. So I think it's been a pretty good tournament so far, and Russia has kind of proved the doubters wrong that they actually can host a good tournament. So it'll be interesting to see if they can keep that level of quality up. So the next thing on the Guardian's kind of list is the ball is the best. So usually there's always the people complaining about the ball, and I think there was a couple of goalkeepers, like the Egypt goalkeeper and the Russian goalkeeper, Akinfeev, kind of giving out about it. But I guess the Guardian are kind of taking the view of seeing free kicks like Golovins on the opening day, Ronaldo on the second day, and Kolarov's over the weekend, and that's the proper judge of a good ball. That the technicians that are using these balls, that they're able to kind of put the ball where they want them, which is interesting. But I personally think changing the ball design every time is, or for every tournament or every season in the Premier League, is a bit of a joke, because when you look at other balls in other sports, like the rugby ball or American football or baseball or basketball, the design of the actual shape of the ball stays the same. Obviously then they can put the new Super Bowl logo on it, or kind of edit it and kind of put a fresh kind of skin or paint on it to make it unique for a certain event. But for the World Cup ball, there's a whole engineering kind of team that are dedicated to designing a whole new ball, and kind of changes the number of panels, the shape of the panels. So I think that's probably something that should be looked at. Like, why don't we have, this is the best type of ball, and if it needs to be a different color or different design in terms of the actual kind of graphics on it for a different tournament, then so be it. But I think changing the absolute shape is crazy. So number 3 on the Guardian list is fewer red cards. So kind of taking a look at the game so far, there's only been that one red card in the games or today's earlier game for Carlos Sanchez. So it took until the 15th game of the tournament for that to happen. So it's kind of unfortunate that it was handball and kind of a stupid decision, but I guess it was kind of rush blood to the head on the Colombian player's part. But this is the cleanest start to World Cup since 1986. So referees have been kind of lenient in a lot of games. Obviously, Brazil have kind of written a letter to FIFA about the refereing in their game, and a couple of other games have kind of popped up where the referee's been relatively lenient. So only one red card so far, but I guess there's a lot more games to go to increase that. And as teams and players start picking up multiple yellows in multiple games, and obviously the inevitable suspensions might be coming, which is unfortunate, but it's part of the game. So number 4 on their list is 3 can be a crowd. So I don't really know what this is straight off the bat, but if only football was as easy as throwing together the best pieces and expecting them to fit into an instant jigsaw. France came to Russia with a similar set of expectations. Didier Deschamps was bold in moulding his team around the selection of 3 attackers who were all blessed with pace and trickery. So in theory, Kylian Mbappe, Antoine Griezmann and Dembele should work, but I think David was well on board the France hype train from a long time ago, so I think he was disappointed, as were a lot of other people, of how kind of flat and uninspiring the French looked against Australia. So sometimes it doesn't always work, and obviously not really being able to bring in different kind of players to kind of make it work kind of has hindered France. But they're kind of slow starters at the best of times, so I think not being able to kind of get it going in the first game is not really indicative of their overall potential, because we've seen like Belgium and England, the bigger teams have struggled, obviously Brazil being the most the biggest struggle, and Germany lost to Mexico. So hopefully the French team will be able to pick up their attacking ideas moving forward. So number 5 on the Guardian's list of 10 things they've learned so far from the World Cup is bugs and dogs, but no big brother so far. So obviously the England game had just like swarms of midgies for kind of reminded me of, I think it was Euro 2016, similar kind of bug infestation. There was some funny shots of Ronaldo with some massive kind of cricket-like things on him. So there's you saw the England players kind of warming up with kind of spraying some anti-bug spray on them. So be interesting to see if there's more games on in that venue, if the bugs are still there. Number 6 on the list, England have Vim. England obviously started well in the game, then got pegged back by giving away a stupid penalty from Kyle Walker, which as a Tottenham fan, I was kind of used to seeing him make some rash decisions. He kind of got away with one kind of earlier on as well. Didn't kind of tackle a player or anything, but he did try to leave the ball go past him, but the player kind of read it and kind of interjected. So obviously they kind of showed that they had a bit of bottle. So England kind of won in the last minute, which I think is always more exciting for fans, and obviously internal to the team. I think they'll have a bit more kind of motivation kind of going forward. Whereas if they won in a 2-1 where they didn't actually score in the last minute, where they were kind of hanging on at the end, I think that puts a different picture on it. So I think scoring that last minute winner, I think everyone was elated, and you saw the scenes of some of the fans back in England watching the game, and they were absolutely going mental, as were fans in the stadium. And I think the way the English team kind of celebrated both their goals kind of showed that they've kind of got a bit of a group kind of motivation or a group identity, that they're all kind of singing from the same hymn sheet. So credit to Gareth Southgate for that, but I guess you never know how that's going to develop over the course of a month-long tournament. So very early days, so cool the jets. England kind of always kind of fall foul of that of one game and they think they're going to win the thing, which is far from the exact science. So number 7 on the Guardian's list is the Brazilian insecurities must be suppressed. So there's only one lapsed, and Tite and his players and the rest of the Brazilians' 200 million plus population continue to insist that Switzerland's equaliser in Rostov on Sunday ought to be disallowed for a push. So yeah, I think Brazil's reaction to that game, to the way Switzerland kind of played them, obviously they kind of targeted Neymar, and he's kind of harried around the pitch, and they were definitely trying to do a job on him. But go back 4 years and Colombia faced Brazil in, I think it was a quarterfinal, and they did the exact same thing to James Rodriguez. They kicked the shit out of him for 90 minutes and didn't let him play, and ultimately Brazil won. And at the end of the game, James Rodriguez was in tears, and players like Luis are going up and trying to commiserate him. But I think it's a bit of karma, like you do what you can to win, and I don't think Switzerland were particularly nasty or violent. And I would look at the defender in that situation, Miranda. He was pretty weak. It wasn't a shove to push you into another dimension. It was a little push on the back, which happens pretty much at every corner anyway. But he was ahead of his man that we're supposed to be defending, which is not where he's supposed to be as a defender. So I think complain all you want, but what happened. So I think getting kind of obsessed with getting wrong decisions against you, whatever, is kind of bad mentality to have, and kind of dust yourself off and go again. So it'll be interesting to see how Brazil do in their next game. Obviously, there's kind of reports today and images and videos of Neymar going off injured from training, that he only kind of did a couple of minutes, and then he was looked in pain, to be perfectly honest. So maybe a hamstring or a knee issue. So yeah, obviously if he's not there, then Brazil have lost their talisman and their definite best player of the world, and the supposed heir to the throne of Messi and Ronaldo. So be disappointed if he goes out, because he was also my pick for Golden Boot. So I definitely want him there. So number 8 on the list, the fans are taking football to the streets. So as a gaggle of Russian, Serbian and Costa Rican fans walked down Ulica in the centre of Samara. Someone produced football. It was past midnight and everybody's making their way home after a long day. And finished with Switzerland and Brazil in the fan zone. Any terrorism forgotten as an impromptu match broke out in the street. So that's great to hear. Actually, I hadn't heard that story, but I think the World Cup is a magical experience. Obviously, people can say that it might be a bit different now than it was back in the day. Obviously there's a lot more commercial involved, and the World Cup's gone under a number of different expansions, from small bunch of teams to 24, and now it's gone to 32, and in the future it'll go to 48. Don't know if that will be at the next World Cup in Qatar, like is being kind of mentioned as a possibility, or if it's definitely happening in 2026 in North America, when it's going to be hosted between Canada, US and Mexico. But love hearing stories like this of fans getting on, and what better way to enjoy the Football World Cup than a bunch of fans from a number of different countries having an impromptu game in the middle of a Russian city. So number 9 from the Guardian's top 10 list is the Tony Pulis World Cup. So what on earth is going on with all these set pieces at the World Cup? After only 15 games in Russia, we have witnessed more goals from direct free kicks than in the entire tournament in Brazil. Interesting, I didn't know that fact. So Colombia's Juan Quintero joined Serbia's Kolarov, Portugal's Ronaldo, and Russia's Golovin by being a goalkeeper. The brilliant dead ball strike from outside the area. There have also been 9 penalties that have been given, so there's only 13 in all of Brazil 2014, and 22 of the 38 goals so far, so 55% scored in the first round matches came via set piece. So that's pretty high rate, and yeah, I can see why they're calling it the Tony Pulis World Cup. Obviously, kind of known for attacking set pieces, and could easily be called the Sam Allardyce World Cup, but I think they might have stayed away from that comparison for obvious reasons. And then the final piece from the Guardian's top 10. What they've learned from the World Cup so far is the peaceful South American invasion. So obviously we've kind of seen fans swarming from all over the world to Russia, but it's definitely been the South Americans that have had the most vocal or the most impactful visual aspect on the stadium. Colombia's game today looked like a home game because there was absolutely thousands of them there, with just kind of small pockets of Japanese fans. But there's been 40,000 Peruvian fans there apparently. So it's definitely been an absolute invasion by the South Americans, and I'd extend that to North America as well, with Mexico fans kind of traveling, great support as well. So just kind of reading this here quickly, in Colombia, who sold 65,234 official tickets for these finals, which is more than twice as many as England did. So yeah, no surprise there, because the stadium was kind of fully kitted out, hitting yellow today for the Japanese versus Colombian match. Obviously didn't really go the way of the home team in Colombia, but I think they'll definitely be out to show their support again next time out when they play again. So looking quickly at the next kind of couple of games that are happening tomorrow. So first up is Portugal versus Morocco. So it's kind of a must-win for Morocco, and Portugal obviously drew their first game against Spain, so they'll look to kind of put a win on the board as well to kind of get things going. Morocco lost their first round game against Iran, so they definitely played the better of those two teams, but they were kind of caught late on by a header from a corner, so no surprise there given the stats I mentioned earlier. So it'll be interesting to see if Ronaldo can add to his tally of 3 goals so far. He'd only scored 3 goals in his entire World Cup career of a number of different tournaments, so it'll be interesting to see how he gets on. Kind of expecting the same kind of team that started. I don't think there's anything wrong with the way Portugal played or the players that played last time out, so I think everyone's kind of expecting the same kind of team. Their centre backs didn't do great against Diego Costa, but I don't think there's really too many subs, because they're relying on Font and Pepe, who they're vastly experienced, which is a nice way of calling them old, but they don't really have anyone in a similar kind of vein or a similar kind of level that can kind of come in. So I probably would look to change out Font, but they don't really have anyone else. Rui Patricio, apparently he's been signed by Wolves. Obviously we kind of mentioned before about the Sporting Lisbon kind of fiasco, so apparently he's torn up his contract or got it nullified from Sporting Lisbon, so it looks like he's kind of on his way to the Premier League with Wolves. Again, Jorge Mendes kind of pulling the strings there in terms of transfers for Wolves, so it's no surprise to see another Portuguese player following Mendes to Wolverhampton. And then Morocco, obviously they're disappointed to lose against Iran, because I think they were hoping to kind of push Portugal and Spain all the way, and they probably would have seen a relatively easy win for them against Iran in the opening game, and then look to kind of move into this game maybe hoping for a draw or something. So slight height advantage in that team for Morocco, so maybe we could be looking at another couple of set piece kind of goals and some more headers. Ziyech was pretty impressive in the first game, but I think they didn't really bring their shooting boots, so Benati is the captain there, so I think he'll be looking to get a big performance out of his players against Portugal and see if they can kind of take them on. And looking at a 4-2-3-1 is what they played in the first game, so I'd probably expect them to continue with there and look to get Ziyech on the ball, the youngster who plays for Ajax. So that's Portugal versus Morocco. Probably going to go for a Portugal win. Almost said Morocco there, but that's the first game that kicks off at 1 o'clock tomorrow. Then looking at the 4 o'clock game, so that's going to be Uruguay versus Saudi Arabia. So going to call my prediction right here straight away that it's going to be Uruguay going to win, so it's just probably a question of how many goals they'll score. I don't think they'll get as many as Russia did, but I can see them easily getting 3 or 4-0 win. Jimenez was an absolute beast. Alongside Godin, obviously got the goal. Was probably their man of the match. Suarez didn't really do anything. Had a couple of chances in the previous game against Iran, but definitely didn't bring his shooting boots that he had at Barcelona this season. Cavani had a couple of good chances, but didn't actually manage to score. So I think if either of them have hopes of winning the Golden Boot at this World Cup, then they'll probably need to score a couple, if not a hat-trick. So Fedcinho, he was pretty impressive in the first game as well. A player that kind of stood out for me. So kind of centre midfielder who did pretty nice things. And then again, even though I've seen Saudi Arabia play, don't know much about them. Faraj is a player who we kind of picked out at the start of the tournament, and he's probably their best player alongside Jassam. But yeah, don't really know too much about them. So looking at the height advantage, Uruguay do have a significant height advantage on average over all these players between the two squads. So potentially looking at some more headers again tomorrow. So the Tony Pulis World Cup kind of continues, or potentially continues. And then looking ahead to the final game tomorrow evening. So that's going to be Iran versus Spain. So obviously Spain or Iran are topping the group so far with their 1-0 win against Morocco. So I think they'll probably look to shut up shop and see if they can frustrate Spain. Obviously I expect Spain to have dominating possession tomorrow night. So I think it will be attack versus defense kind of strategy. Then Iran looking to frustrate Spain, and then Spain looking to kind of penetrate through a tight defense. So Costa obviously scored 2 against Portugal, and some great hold-up play and brought other players into the game, and obviously scored those 2 goals. The first one was quite impressive as well, kind of turned, I think it was Pepe instead of, no, Pepe was on the ground holding his face as usual. So yeah, it was Font that he kind of turned inside out and kind of banged it into the bottom corner past Rui Patricio, Wolves' new goalkeeper. But my man of the match from that game was Isco. I think he was phenomenal in terms of linking up the play between centre mid and the attackers. So be excited to see him again, and obviously against an Iranian side that lack some talent throughout the squad really. It could be 80% possession to Spain. I'm going to look out for that tomorrow now that I've said it. Not really a prediction, but it'll be interesting to see. It could be one of those games where it's absolutely dominated by Spain, like all their games, but I think especially in this instance, Iran won't have too much of the ball. So yeah, going to go with a Spain win here. Hopefully they get an early goal, because I think the longer it goes without a goal, it could be a pretty dull game. If Iran are just sitting deep and Spain just have all the possession looking to draw out Iran's defenders, it could be a lot of passing the ball between Piqué and Ramos and to Nacho or Alaba and the wing back positions or the full back position. So hoping for an early goal from Spain, and then hopefully that will open up the game a bit tomorrow. So that's the evening game. So 3 games tomorrow. Portugal Morocco is the first game at 1 o'clock. Then we're looking at Uruguay versus Saudi Arabia as the next one, and then Iran versus Spain as the evening game. So looking forward to not really any of those games tomorrow, so might not actually tune in live for any of those, but as always I'll kind of have my headphones on with commentary in the background while I'm working. So anything that happens I'll be kind of jumping over and taking a look. So that's it for Black and White Football today. A bit shorter than usual, which I kind of like, because I don't really like rambling for an hour and a half, which we have done in the past, which is kind of a good sign really, because myself and David love talking football, so it's an easy thing to do. So that is day 6 of the World Cup, kind of wrapped up and previewed. So we'll be back again tomorrow with some sort of show. So if you've been paying any sort of attention to these, and doubt anyone's going to see this part of it, but I guess the intention with this is just to kind of push out as much content as we possibly can throughout this. As I'm David, just love talking about football, so we just kind of want to get better at podcasting or live broadcasting, or just basically kind of talking football to an audience, and putting out a body of work at the end of it to have to show our grandkids maybe. Because it's probably the only people that are going to be watching it, to be perfectly honest. So doing this on my iPad this time, so it's another different kind of strategy. We've tried multiple different options, so hopefully people enjoy it. Using the Facebook Creator app, which actually is pretty cool. I hadn't really heard of it before this evening when I was doing some research. So we can bring in people if they follow the page, that we can add them into the conversation, and I think they'll join here as like a picture or whatever, which is far from ideal, but I think I'll definitely make use of that at some point over the tournament, because as I said, a friend is in Russia at the moment, so he could be our man on the ground, and I think he'll have some funny stories and some anecdotes for us. So that's it for now for Black and White Football Day 6. Another one's in the can. Hopefully we will get 25 of these, because there's 25 days of competition throughout the World Cup. So hope you enjoyed it. If any likes, comments or feedback, please send them my way. If you want to share or comment on this video, that'd be awesome. It'd be great to even know if anybody's watching. But yeah, enjoy World Cup Day 6 tomorrow.